Hello, welcome to my channel, welcome to my garage. This is the continuation of the Ducati motorcycle from Tamiya at 1/12 scale. And this is at the end of step number 10. This is what the bike looks like when you've completed step 10. We'll turn it around the other side here. And it looks pretty good. It's coming along pretty well. Even though there are mistakes that I've made, when I do this model again, I'm going to try to correct those mistakes and make this model a little bit better. But right now, that's how the bike looks at step number 10. And as I mentioned before in my previous video, when you turn the wheel, I don't know if you can see that or not, the brake disc does turn as well. So that turned out really, really well. So let's go over a little bit on the steps that we have here, starting with step number 6. Everything went on just fine, without a problem. Had absolutely no problem getting these on. The spring went on just fine without any issues, and sprayed a primer on top of that, and then painted it the yellow color. And you can see that here there's also a cover that goes on that we apply in a later stage, but you can see that the spring is in, and that does give a little bit of attention to the bike. Then we also have this piece right here. Zoom in a little bit even further, you can see this better. And this, I think, is an oil filter. And if you're doing the fork detail kit, which I will be going into more detail on that a little bit later, it does include, and I didn't know this until it was too late, it does include a metal part for this here. So if you're, can't even see it, does include the metal part for this. So if you're doing this fork detail series, keep in mind that it does have this, and to put that on, I didn't realize it until it was too late. I'm going to try to see if I can't break this piece off without damaging anything else. It's on there pretty securely, so I probably can. But I'm going to give it a go. And I've already made a decal for that goes on there. I went on the internet and found the label that in the exact configuration and wording and style that is on the bike for this kit, and I reduced it down to the proper size, scale size, so I can print my own label or decal, and which is a transparent, and put it onto this metal piece here, and dress up the bike a little bit better. If I can't, I'm definitely going to put it onto this bike, because I do plan on doing this again. I have a friend of mine that I just learned today is into motorcycles, and he saw my building of the Ducati on the channel and said that he would like to have one. So I'm going to build a second one for him and try to do a lot better job correcting the mistakes that I made on this build, and get that done for him and send it to him as soon as I can. I've already got the kit has already arrived. It's sitting in the corner of my office or my garage workstation, and we'll be getting that going as soon as I complete round 1 of this bike. Okay, going on to step number 7 here. I'll get this down in the camera so you can see it. There we go. All these parts, again, they went on just fine. Again, what you assembled in step 6 starts to go into step 7. You can see that the cover for the spring is right there on the bike. And the whole entire assembly then, of course, goes onto the bike as well. No problems there. Then in step number 8, again, we had absolutely no problems, but there is a building tip I would like to give you for step number 8. Wait a minute, can't even see it. There we go. This, where you put in the hoses right in here, when it's going from this part here, and then you got a hose that leads onto this area in here. And when you're doing that, let's see if I can't show you here on the bike. There it is. All right. So right here, you have a hose that goes from this piece here, right there, and it leads all the way up into this part, up into here, right there. It's best if this part here is screwed in. This is the screw hole here, and this whole entire assembly is then screwed in. I highly recommend that before you screw this assembly in, that you attach the pipe to this part here, because it's so fragile that if you try to push this hose onto this lug, it's a possibility that you can break this off. So try to first apply the hose first on this part, then screw it in onto the bike, and then you can very easily attach the other end of the hose to the lug on this part right here. So that's my building tip on this. Otherwise, everything just went in fine. You have two screws that secure this assembly in. Here's one of the screws right there. Whoop, you can't see it. Here's one of the screws right here. And then you have another screw hole here, which attaches the entire assembly that you can see right here. Then we have this part here that went just fine. You can see that part right here that's all painted partially white. So absolutely no problems whatsoever, even right in here when you're assembling the hose here onto the brake line, which you can see right back here. There's the hose. I don't know if you can actually see that or not, but that is the hose right there. That went in without a problem. That connects into the brake line there. Of course, you put that on before the tire is put on. Absolutely no problems whatsoever. And then these hose lengths that you see here, these are to scale. So all you have to do is just put your hose up against this line and then cut it to length, and you'll have the perfect length to go onto the bike. Not a problem whatsoever. Okay, now we get into step number 9. And step number 9 is the fork assembly. And let's see if I can't scroll up just a little bit here so you can see the whole thing. There we go. There we go. All right. All this went in just fine. And that is right here at the top. All these parts went in just fine without an issue. Now, these are metal parts that go in, and let me give you the instructions on how all that is assembled. This is the instructions for the metal assembly for the forks, and each one of these parts here, these two parts here are metal, and this is a plastic part here that you put in. I just put in a very small dab of super glue into the recess hole that would hold in this metal part, and then I did the same thing to this metal part, put in just a little bit of super glue just around the inside perimeter. That slipped in fine. Repeated the process with Tamiya, however. I used Tamiya thin cement on the plastic part here that goes into this metal part, and everything just slipped in just fine, as you can see. So they turned out really great. I think those ionized metal parts really make that pop out really well. Now you'll notice too, though, that even though the instructions call for it, a cap on top of this screw here, I have not put that in there yet because I want to make sure that when I'm done completing the bike that the handlebars do move. And during the assembly, I want to make sure that it's not too loose and it's also not too tight. So I want that screw in there to be still accessible at this point. So I haven't put any cap on top of there yet. In terms of assembling the forks, that's very, very simple. It's very straightforward on the metal. Now these metal bars right here, this metal fork area, this is a lot, well not a lot, but it's quite thicker or bigger than the stock plastic part that comes with the kit. So keep that in mind as you're attaching this part here, because it's supposed to wrap around the metal. And what I did was I first glued in using Tamiya thin cement just right around. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a seam that goes along through here. And I just put just a little bit of Tamiya cement in there and held it in place for a few seconds, about 15 or 20, just so that it could get kind of a tacky, secure type of a fit, that it wouldn't move. Then I repeated the process on the other side. And I don't know if you can see that or not, if the camera can pick it up, but just got a little bit in there too. I know it's kind of hard to see with because it's black on black. But when dry fitting this part here that goes around the edge, this part here is not really big enough to go around the metal bar here, the metal what I don't know, the handlebar, or it's not a handlebar, the fork area. And so you have to put a lot of pressure and press pretty hard in order to get this to fit snug or very close. And if you use the Tamiya cement, you'll be able to hide that seam. So that went in really, really well. Now you'll also notice, let me see if I can get some better light on here for you so you can see this a little bit better. There we go. All right, now you'll notice that I also cut out the holes on this part. Those holes right there, those slices, were actually filled in with plastic. And I took drill bits from my Dremel kit and drilled those out. You can see the process on the plasma channel of him doing that. I duplicated the same process. That came out just perfect. But just so that you know, once you put on the front covers of the bike, you'll never see that part again anyway. So, but it was fun doing it, and it does dress it up a little bit. And if you do want to take the covers off the bike to see the details of the engine, you can do that. But because this is a plastic kit and those are plastic screw holes, you do have a chance of stripping those screws, or at least stripping the screw holes so that the parts will not go in right after that. So it's not a toy, in my opinion. It's just something that's static, but you just got to keep that in mind. But when you do put on the plastic cover here on the side as the kit is being completed, you're not going to be able to see these anymore. Now it does say here in the instructions that if part of the assembly is, it's very simple. One tube goes over the plastic part that comes with the detail set. Then this part goes right up here. Then you have a rubber O-ring that goes right on top of that at the edge. And then you have a poly cap, and then you have the bottom part of the assembly. And here is the rubber O-ring here, and then everything else is concealed inside the pipe. It does say that if this does not fit snugly in there in this assembly, that go ahead and use a little bit of glue. Well, there's two problems with that, I think. One, you can see that this does turn. I can turn that. And this part is going to attach to the wheel. And if it's at an angle, like that for example, or it's just slightly off, it's not going to fit on the wheel very well. So gluing it would actually hold that into the place that you glued it in. And if you are off a little bit, you're not going to be able to attach the wheel. So even if it's really, really loose in there, I would say just leave it alone, because once the wheel is secured on there, then the whole thing is going to be secured in and of itself. But if it does bother you, you can always take a pair of pliers, protect it with tape so that it doesn't scratch the outer area here, and just very lightly squeeze it down, and you should be able to get somewhat of a tight fit. But like I said, once the tires are, or the tire is secured to these forks, you're not going to really have that problem of it being really, really loose. There is a decal that goes on there. You can see the decal has been applied. And I would recommend putting that decal on before you assemble the part into the spokes. That will be a lot easier for you in the long run. At least it was for me. And you have one on the other side too. But where is it? There you go. Okay, so that's the fork assembly. And again, that went on really, really well. Once you assemble this, it just goes right into the onto the bike. You take the screw it in. You take this part here, screw it on the front, which is this part right here. And the entire assembly now is on, and you have now the steering assembly already applied there. And I think that just looks perfect. Went in without a problem. Now this area here, when you're assembling the handlebar area, it does call for this to be white and this to be a semi-gloss black. You'll notice that mine are not white. Mine are a clear orange. When I looked at some pictures of the Ducati online, some real photographs of it, I noticed that these are probably brake fluid, maybe for the front brakes, or some sort of hydraulic fluid, and it's yellow in color that I saw online. So I tried to mimic that a little bit on that. It doesn't really look too bad, but would have been really, really nice if the plastic in and of itself, at least down here, was clear plastic. Then it would have been a little bit easier to mimic the real look of a container filled with fluid. But I decided that the white just didn't make it, because then you would have a color on there that was similar to what you see here, and that just didn't look right to me. So I decided to paint those a clear orange color. So that's why they're orange like that. Okay, so now we move on to step number 9. Step number 9 went on without a problem. Or excuse me, step number 10, sorry. Step number 10 had no problems whatsoever. I would say probably the most difficult thing was getting the decals on the rims. I don't know if you can see the decals on there. So the round decals there, and then you've got the yellow labeling here at the very top. You have that on the other side as well. And I was lucky. What I did was, and I say I was lucky because I've never applied decals this tiny before. The decals come in basically 3 different lengths. And here's the decals here. I haven't put on the ones on the front tires yet, but you'll notice that they come in a series of these lengths right here, and they're very, very thin, very, very tiny. So you put on one here, which is the labeling, was the logo label on there with a little bit of red, and then you apply 2 more red stripes to complete the entire circle of the tire. What I found is to apply the labels or the decals on the rim before you attach the tire. It'll make your life a little bit easier. And the reason why I say that is that the rim and the tire are both black. And to see clearly where the rim ends and the tire edge begins is really, really hard to see. And it became almost impossible to get that decal to go around the very top rim, or the indent around the rim there. And so what I did is that I applied the decals before I applied the tire, and that went on very easy. It was really not as much of a problem as I thought it was. The trick that I discovered was that I took an X-Acto knife and I just cut out one of the stripes at a time. Then using my hand to hold one side of the label or the decal, I then took my other finger and very gently moved it along the outside so that it would rest on top of the rim of the tire, or excuse me, on top of the rim where it was going to go. Then using a toothpick, I held that in place and just very carefully moved the decal around in the circle of the rim, and it more or less placed the decal automatically in the area that it needed to be. I did very, very little maneuvering to get that decal to be in that actual groove of that rim. And then I just used Tamiya, I used Microset and Microsole decal applications, and got that on there nice and clear. Then I took some Tamiya Clear and I just brushed Tamiya Clear on top of the decal to seal that in and protect it so that it wouldn't fall off or get rubbed off or peel off in time, and that just went on just perfectly. So the way I did it was I used the Microsole to first wet the top, just like it says on the instructions. Just follow the instructions on the container. Then I applied the decal. Then once the decal was in the position that I wanted and I was satisfied, I put some more Microset on top of that. And then I waited for it to dry and continued to put Microset on top of it until I was satisfied that the decal formed in the groove and was totally secure, and then moved on to the next decal and just repeated the process until the entire rim was done. Once that was all completed and dry, I then put the tire into hot water, boiling water, got it really nice and soft so that I can get the tire on the rim with as little pushing and stretching and handling as I could, and that just slipped right over that rim very easily without a problem. So that was the completion of step number 10, and everything else after that just went in just fine. I screwed this in until it was all nice and secure so that there is no wobble on the wheel, just like you would do on any other car build. And that completed number 10. And then we're ready for number 11. Now I did do the stand, and I did that only so that as I'm working on the bike, I now have a stand to put it on so I can secure the bike and work on it without it falling down. And then also too, if I've done any parts there that needed time for drying, at least I had a stand there that I can stand the bike up like so, and it wouldn't fall over, and it protects the bike as well. So I went ahead and completed that stage assembly that you see here in step number 11. So that's the only thing I've done so far. Starting on step number 11, I am going to be doing this here, which is the front fender, and I am going to be putting on some decals on that. That is the carbon fiber decal. I have to make a template for each side to put those decals on, and then the rest of this would be on the metal detail set that I'm also applying and using. So the next video will be probably from stage or step 11 all the way to probably around about step number 14, which is over here. We'll see how everything goes. We still have a few more steps to go, but this entire kit is done in 24 steps. We're on basically now step 11, so we're just about halfway done with the bike. So I'll go ahead and put a 3D view on this for the last assembly so you can see this in its full glory. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed, please remember to subscribe. Other than that, have a great day and always have fun in your workshop. Take care.